Mistakes at the bridge tables, the topic this morning. Uh, I used to be a little leery about discussing my mistakes, but I got over it. I make a lot of them. Everybody makes a lot of them. Even the good players don't get through a round mistake free. Even the very best players I've read make two or three mistakes in say a round of 27 boards or something. Nobody plays perfectly. But this game is a good deal more complicated than some of the easier card games are. Uh, it is absolutely impossible to play it perfectly, but it's so much fun because it's just every hand is a puzzle and you can figure it out with logic. And I really enjoy those kinds of things, as do all of you, or you wouldn't be here this morning. So what I put together here was a list of mistakes that I found in various places around on the internet. And we're going to talk about them and what you can do to try to keep from making those mistakes. So first one I found, this was on nearly every list I read prominently, and that is the failure to balance. What is balancing? It just means that in this case, what we're talking about here is the opponents have found a fit at a low level. For instance, one of your opponents opens a heart, pass, two hearts, pass, pass, and it comes to you. They found a fit. They've stopped in a part score. What can we deduce from that? Well, what we can imagine is that each side has about half of the points, because it takes 20-ish points to make a part score contract. And if they have a fit, we should have a fit somewhere. I will tell you that if you just let the opponent sit there and play in their nice little comfortable part score level bid, that you're going to find yourself getting some poor scores at the end of the game, simply because letting them play in their nice comfortable contract that they should have enough points to make is not the way you come out on top. Now, balancing has gotten a lot more aggressive than it used to be. And I will tell you that when I first read about balancing, I was just way too scared to do it. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to bid at the 3 level if I bid my suit. And I didn't even have enough to bid the first time. What am I thinking? I'm going to get embarrassed and go down for a big number. Well, sometimes that happens. But if you're willing to sit there and let your opponents play their nice little fit, you will live to regret it. I'm going to show you a couple of examples here, and we're going to talk about when it's right to balance and when it's not. Now, when it's right to balance, the opponents have limited their hands usually. Maybe somebody rebid one no trump. They haven't found a fit in a major suit, have they? A lot of times people don't balance over a one no trump rebid because no fit has been found. If the opponents don't have a fit, the odds are pretty fair that you don't have a fit either. But if they found a fit and stopped at a low level, well, don't let them get away with it. That's usually the way to get a poor result. If they have limited the strength of their hands, for instance, responder limits his hand when he just bids 2 of opener's major, doesn't he? He says, I have 6 to 9 points and at least 3 card support for you. He's limited his hand. So they've willingly stopped in a part score. If you have some length and strength in the unbid suits, that's a good sign. If you have length and strength in the opponent's suit, that's not an asset if you want to bid to try to push them up. That's probably not going to get you a good result. And when you're not vulnerable, and they are, many times they will take the push and go to the 3 level, because if they double you and set you 2 tricks, it's only 100 points. But if they could make 2 or 3, it's 110 or 140. So, especially if you're not vulnerable, you're not risking a whole lot. If you are vulnerable, or everybody's vulnerable, or if you're vulnerable and the opponents are not, it's a little riskier. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it with the right kind of hand. Let's take a look at some of these here. One thing I want to remind you is that when your partner balances, he's bidding your hand too. In other words, basically, he's borrowing a king from your hand. So don't hang your partner out to dry when he balances. Remember, all you're trying to do when the opponents have bid and you and your partner have passed at your initial opportunities, all you're trying to do is force the opponents to the 3 level. You are not looking for a game contract. I have seen some people balance and have people get carried away, and the pair that passed the first couple of times the bidding went around ended up in a game contract. They got a poor result. When you balance, the object is not to find a game contract. It is to push the opponents 1 level higher. Now, obviously, if you have a great big fit with your partner, you might raise. But under normal circumstances, you'll just pass, even with a fit, because remember, partner borrowed some strength that he doesn't have from your hand. So let's take a look at these examples. The auction has gone, West opens a heart, you're sitting north, you passed. East bid 2 hearts, your partner passed, and now West passes. This pretty much tells us that he has a minimum opening hand, right? And now it's time for you to bid. Let's look at these 3 hands. Hand number 1 has 9 high card points in it. And look what we have here. There's only been 1 suit bid, or 4 spades, 4 diamonds, and 3 clubs, and you have only a doubleton heart. This is just about a perfect hand for balancing. Does anybody have a thought on what you ought to do? I mean, I know I've got the answer over there, but since you have only 4 spades, doubling for takeout makes sense to me. If I had 5 spades, I'd bid 2 spades. But since I don't, I'm hopeful that my partner will have 4 spades also, and maybe we can play 2 spades. Who knows? So with hand number 1, I'm going to double and ask my partner to bid his longest suit. If he bids clubs, well, I hope he has 5. But there are no guarantees in this game, guys. This kind of bidding can be very successful, but that doesn't mean that it is a success 100% of the time. You take the bad with the good. Now, on this hand number 2, there's a slightly different situation. I don't have 4 spades, so I'm not particularly looking for a 4-4 fit in the other major suit. But I do have a definite preference for clubs here. So in this instance, I wouldn't double. I'm going to bid my 5-card suit and hope that my partner has 3 of them. He may even have 4. We don't know for sure. But he could have a singleton. That's true also. But you pays your money and you take your chances. And then with hand number 3, I want to talk about this bid for just a minute. This is what's recommended here when you have both minors is to bid 2 no trump when you're balancing. But this auction is not the same as if West had opened a heart, North passed, East passed, and South bid 2 no trump. That 2 no trump is a 2 no trumpy hand. Notice here, you and your partner have both passed. So this cannot be the big 2 no trump bid. If you had that hand, you'd have doubled in there somewhere, right? And I doubt that East and West both would have been bidding. If they're bidding and you have 20 points, it's a lead pipe cinch that your partner is totally broke. But when you have minors like this, rather than making the choice yourself, because you don't know, I don't know about the rest of you, but if I pick one of them, my partner had the other one. It almost always works out that way. So when you bid two no trump in this situation, when the opponents have both bid, you and your partner have both passed, and you bid two no trump, balancing, it says, I have both minors, partner, please pick. This hand shows 5-card minors. A lot of people do it with four cards in each minor suit. That's up to you and your partner to discuss. But you can, talk about it and see what you think. Obviously, 5-5 is a little safer than 4-4, but it also means that you won't get to bid as often. So South has to remember, no matter what North does here, he's borrowed a king. Notice he's got 9 points here. He's borrowed a king from his partner's hand. That gives him the equivalent of about 12 points. And South needs to remember not to hang his partner out to dry for balancing. I typically will balance with about 8 points. I overcall with fewer with the right suit and the right vulnerability. But balancing, I like to have 8 points. And when I don't balance and I'm sitting in the balancing seat, it's usually because I really don't have enough. And maybe the opponents have underbid. I will tell you also that my partner and I have balanced and forced the opponents up not only one level, but all the way into a game that makes that they were never going to bid. So you have to be careful about how enthusiastic you get when you're supporting partner when you have balanced. You don't want to drive them into a contract that they can make, but they weren't going to bid. But you'd like to drive them up one level higher. Hopefully you can set them if they've gone one level higher than they're comfortable with. So my goal is usually just to push the opponents to the 3 level, and that's it.
Couple questions, Susan.
Go right ahead.
On hand number 1, help us understand the difference between that and a takeout double.
It is a takeout double. You just weren't good enough to do it on the first round of bidding.
So even though you weren't good enough to do it originally, by borrowing that king, is that the idea? That
when you come in, when you pass initially and then you either bid or double for takeout, that typically shows a hand worth about 9 to 11 points. So not good enough to double a heart because you don't have an opening hand on the first go round, but you can double on the second one because that promises only 9 to 11 points.
Great, thank you. And Roy has his hand up.
Go right ahead, Roy.
On example number 3, I would, on the first round, think of doing the 2 no trump on the first round, showing my partner that I was 5-5.
Well, that's a possibility if you and your partner play no trump.
Okay, but my question is, on the second round, it still has the same meaning.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's not the same thing as 1 heart past 2 no trump.
Correct. But from the perspective of North,
yes,
a 2 no trump in the first round or the second round has the same meaning.
Right. And the thing about it is, when you're in the balancing seat, this 2 no trump call doesn't have to promise 5 cards in each suit. It could be only 4.
Okay.
What you and your partner, have agreed to. It's not uncommon for people to have agreed that it's at least 4-4 in the minor suits. You're right here. This could be a 2 no trump overcall if the unusual 2 no trump is in your bidding box.
Okay, thank you.
10 points here. Typically you need, or I'm sorry, that's not right. I was looking at the wrong. Yeah, 10 high card points in this one. Typically you need 8 to 11 points, depending on vulnerability. I probably would not bid 2 no trump if I'm vulnerable and the opponents are not with this hand, because I've been burned badly a couple of times at unfavorable vulnerability with only a minimum unusual 2 no trump. Of course, my partner wasn't great either, but I have twice I have done that, and it makes me very leery about doing it at unfavorable vulnerability. But that's just my own personal experience. I don't like going for minus 800. That's never a good result, folks. Never.
Debbie Wade has a question also.
Go right ahead, Debbie.
So, you're saying 2 no trump in the direct seat
I think we go through Ogden.
is going to
We
be
go back to where we were.
2 no trump in the direct seat can be the
2 no trump by North. That's unusual. It was
it's going to be unusual. But what if this is not in the balancing seat, but a little bit off topic? What if South did it after East? Is it still going to be unusual 2 no trump?
I can't imagine if I'm sitting there with 20 high card points. Is it still going to be unusual? I think that would be a matter for partnership agreement, but the unusual 2 no trump is always a jump. So in this instance, 2 no trump over 2 hearts is not a jump. So I would not interpret it that way.
Okay.
You and your partner can agree to do that if you want to.
No, I just didn't know, because then when it comes around, if unusual 2 no trump is supposed to be a jump, then when it comes back in the balancing seat, then it's not a jump, but it's going to be unusual 2 no trump.
Yeah, well, in this case, and it is unusual in the fact that you have 2 places to play, the minor suits, the 2 lowest unbid suits, but when you bid it in the balancing seat, it can be just 4-4 rather than 5-5. That's the primary difference.
And I think if the South player were to bid 2-0 there, I would take it as a pre-balance.
Yes, I would too. Rather than as unusual. I would take it to mean I have the minors partner and I may not get a chance to bid again. When the person who's sitting in the South seat here bids, even though he doesn't know whether West is going to pass or take another call, that's called pre-balancing. And it can give your partner a hint on what to lead, or if we want to compete, an idea about what he might bid. But if you bid 2 no trump here now and West passes, North absolutely has to bid. Absolutely has to. Just don't forget that. Does that make sense, Debbie? You look a little puzzled.
Oh, yeah, I am a little puzzled. I mean, that's totally off topic, I guess. I was just wondering, because a Michael's sort of bid means one thing in the direct seat, and it means in North in this situation, means one thing in the North seat and a different thing in the South seat. And I didn't know if the 2 no trump bid would mean something different after responders
partnership discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Because you could interpret that in more than one way. And anytime you have that situation, you want to have discussed it with your partner. I try not to pull out bids that my partners and I have not discussed, because it really puts a lot of pressure on your partner when you do that. So talk about it if you can.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. My next topic is one of my pet peeves. I think you all know this by now. And that is bad overcalls. Bad overcalls. I've got a hand in here that's very similar to one that I bid maybe 6 or 7 years ago when playing with a mentor. And I didn't get a good result. And I think you can see that my hand is not all that bad. But my point is, all of us like to bid because most all of us like to play the hands. And when you first start out, you tend to bid rather indiscriminately many times, or maybe you're a little timid. And when you find your nerve, then you get a little bit indiscriminate. and go too far the other way. Well, that's just part of it. That's just part of it. As you gain more experience, meaning that you're like I am and you've been burned by people who know when I'm blowing smoke, and they don't hesitate to put that red card on the table, and you get a poor result. Here is a hand. Here I am sitting south. West passed, north passed, east opened in the third seat. And I thought, well, gee, if my partner's on lead, I would really like for him to lead a diamond, or maybe, I mean, I've got 11 points and I've got a nice 5-card suit here. I believe I'm going to bid 2 diamonds. Well, the result was bad. The result was bad. What happened was everybody passed after I bid 2 diamonds, and east reopened with a double, and north converted it to penalty. I don't remember whether it was minus 800 or minus 1100, but it was not good. And you're saying, I can hear all of you saying that Susan's hand has 11 points in it. Yeah, it has 11 points in it, but it's a 2-level overcall. It's in a minor suit. And when we were talking about the hand, you know, this one came up at the end of the session when my partner and I were talking about it. Susan, where are your tricks in that hand? You have 1 trick. What are you doing overcalling at the 2 level with 1 trick in your hand? And I said, well, you know, that has 11 high card points in it, and I might even open that hand. And oh boy, that was not the right thing to say. So now, most precision players will open 11-point hands, but precision is not standard American or 2/1. It's a completely different kind of a bidding system. So I got seriously burned because my suit wasn't great. My values were scattered. And I bid a minor with only 5 cards in it. I needed more shape. I've got a balanced hand here. Basically, it's 5-3-3-2. So it didn't end out well, even though I thought when I looked at it that it was reasonable. Maybe on some days it would have been reasonable, but I'm a lot more careful with my overcalls now. 1-level overcalls can be much lighter than 2-level overcalls. 1-level overcalls, I mean, as few as 8 points and a good 5-card suit. You know, that's all you need. But when you're overcalling at the 2 level, you gotta have the goods. I've been known to overcall 1 spade. I mean, spades are the boss suit, and when I've got spades, I like to bid spades. I've been known to overcall with nothing but the ace, queen, 5th of spades in my hand. Gets my partner off to a good lead if he's on lead, and if we don't buy the contract, oh well, I only have 6 points. My partners are aware that I occasionally do that. If I have king, queen, jack, 5th of spades, then I'll overcall 1 spade there with that kind of hand also. But when you go to the 2 level, I think it's really important to have a good suit and a good hand. A 2-level overcall is a different animal from a 1-level overcall. So here's a hand that Terrence Reese published a number of years ago. This is an opening hand, isn't it? 12 high card points in it, and it's 5-5. By golly, I've got shape. Terrence Reese recommended passing with this hand after the bidding went 1 spade by your left-hand opponent, pass by your partner, and 2 diamonds by your right-hand opponent. Why do you suppose that was? Well, even if you don't play 2/1, your opponents have at least 22 or 23 high card points between them, and you have 12. You could double, try to get your partner to bid. or you could bid your 5-card heart suit, bid 2 hearts. But what you have done here is give the opponents a roadmap. You've given them a whole bunch of information because you know that your partner, even if East and West have the absolute minimum for their bids, your partner can't have more than 4 or 5 points. And if they have 1 or 2 more points each than what we've given them, then your partner has 1 point or 2 points. It can be really dangerous to bid between 2 bidding opponents, particularly when one of them responded at the 2 level. I always assume that my opponents know what they're doing until proven otherwise. I've seen some really awful responses like that, 2 diamonds with 7 or 8 high card points. But those contracts usually don't end out well. So be very careful. Terrence Reese, I mean, no less of an expert than Terrence Reese, recommended passing with this hand. So there are a lot of examples that I read where hands that have opening count in them but needed a 2-level overcall were passed around to various experts, and very, very few of them bid with 5-card suits without very specific requirements being met. A lot of the experts use a good deal more judgment and discipline that some of the rest of us do. So think about that next time you're getting ready to overcall at the 2 level.
Susan, Deborah Duncan has her hand up.
Yes, Deborah. Mm-hmm.
On the previous slide, down at the bottom, you said you would overcall 1 spade. Did you mean 1 heart?
No, I would no, I'm not talking about the hand that's up there. I'm just talking on GPs. If my right hand opponent opened and I had ace, queen, 5th of spades, I might overcall 1 spade with as few as 6 points. Or okay, if my spade suit was king, queen, jack, 5th. I'm not talking about this hand up here at all, but different subject. I'm sorry, that wasn't very clear, was it? Mm-hmm. You bet. Mm-hmm. Now, here's another interesting topic. If you fail to double for penalty, in other words, if you hardly ever do it, then your opponents can make all kinds of really pathetic bids, and they'll get away with it. When you have people who are cowboys at the table, you can learn who they are pretty quickly. You need to pull out the red card. You can get pushed around at the table if you let people just do whatever and you never double them for penalty. I've got a couple of examples here. And this, I will tell you here, here's another example of a 2-level overcall here that looks like it ought to be all right, but it isn't if you apply the standards that we talked about on the previous slide. South opens a spade and West bids overcalls 2 hearts. He's got a 6-card suit. What could possibly be wrong with that? He's got 10 high card points, a 6-card suit, a singleton and a doubleton. My goodness, that that looks like it ought to be just fine. And on some days it might be. But if you do this often enough, you're going to get burned, and you can get burned seriously. Understandably, North passed. He now doesn't have a call, does he? And East doesn't know that his partner has 6 hearts, and he's got 8 points, and he says, oh, okay, my partner's got something over there in hearts. Maybe this will be helpful for him. And now the bidding comes back around to South. Here's an important point that I try to make when we talk about negative doubles. When you and your partner play negative doubles and your partner passes in a situation like this, you have to wonder, is my partner really weak? particularly when East passes also here. Are both of these folks here really weak? And the thing that Ron Hinkie told me that has helped me more than anything else in this situation is that you as opener need to look at your hand and ask yourself, could my partner have wanted to double 2 hearts for penalty? If you are short in the suit the opponent's bid, there's a really good chance that that is the case. This is called a protection double, because when you play negative doubles, North can't double West for penalty anymore because double there is negative, right? Showing the minors. So what South has to do is reopen with a double. Is it possible that his partner is just weak? Yes. And in that instance, if he's got a couple of spades, then he'll probably just bid 2 spades and go on down the road. It's possible that it's weak, but it is often the case that it's something like this. Look at the hearts your partner has in his hand. And the thing that tips you off is the fact that you're short in your hand in the suit that your left-hand opponent bid. If your partner is just weak, he'll take out the double. He'll bid something. But if he's sitting here behind the heart bidder holding something like that and facing a partner who opened the bidding, he's going to convert that reopening double to penalty. This is a really, really important part of the negative double convention, and one that not a lot of people remember. You can still double for penalty when you play negative doubles. Now, the actual result on this hand was minus 500. Only East-West were vulnerable, so even if North-South find a game somewhere, they're only going to get 400 or 420. That 500 was worth more to them than any score that they could have gotten short of a slam. So my point is here that when you overcall at the 2 level, you need length and strength in your suit. Put that queen of clubs and that jack of spades in that heart suit, and that's a whole other thing, isn't it? That's a whole other thing. That's a much better suit. Now, I might bid 3 hearts because I don't have an opening hand there, and 2 hearts would imply that I did. But if I had a better suit, I had a lot better shot here. This was a really poor result for East-West. They were vulnerable. When you are vulnerable and you're overcalling at the 2 level, have a good suit, because this South here was experienced enough to know that he needed to reopen with a double, and North said, "Thank you, partner," and converted it to penalty. It's very satisfying when something like that happens. You know, we're not allowed to go tee-hee at the table, but you almost want to. Because first time I remembered to do that, I was so excited I couldn't stand it. It actually worked. There have been occasions when my partners have been weak, but we get out for minus 50 or minus 100. Oh, well. Here's another example. Same kind of situation. We've talked a lot about overcalling and no trump, haven't we? This particular example is obviously somebody who is not familiar with Mel's rule of 8, is he? South opens a no trump. West bid 2 hearts. I will go out on a limb here and say, don't ever overcall a strong no trump opening with 5-3-3-2 shape. If you have to have a whole lot of points to be successful in that situation. And in fact, if you do, your partner's not liable to have anything. Between a strong no trump and your strong hand, there's not much left over for the other 2 players. But in this instance, he bid 2 hearts. North doubled. North doubled. What does that double mean? Is that negative? Most players do not play that negative here. A 3-level overcall, double would be for takeout usually, or could be negative. But with the 2-level overcall, what the responder needs to do is look at his hand and say, okay, my partner has 15 to 17 high card points. I have 11 high card points. Give him 16, I have 11. That's 27 points between the two of us. And this fella over here on my right bid 2 hearts. I have 4 nice hearts sitting behind him. I'm pretty sure that since I have a heart stop and the king 10-9 is a very nice holding in the opponent's suit, that we can make 3 no trump. And a goodly number of pairs here, North took West off the hook by bidding 3 no trump, which may. But several others of the North pair doubled, saying, you don't have a prayer, Charlie. And guess what? He didn't. He didn't. They only need a 2-trick set to get more points doubled than what their game is worth. Don't you think, looking at these 2 hands, look at the East hand. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. This was really, really ugly. And I want to point something else out here. I've been banging the drum a lot on this lately, and I'm going to do it again. If you and your partner play stolen bid doubles, North cannot double for penalty. That means that any of your opponents can overcall at will and make a mess out of your no trump auctions and not pay for it. Stolen bid doubles are not a good idea. Learn how to bid without using them. Because in this instance, it makes all the difference. If North can't double for penalty, he has to bid 3 no trump and hope that his partner can make it. But why do that when you have a tool that will enable you to get a really good result? Stolen bid doubles are easy for people to learn at first, but I honestly and truly think people would be better off if we never taught them stolen bid doubles. So think long and hard about it. Don has been passing out tables that show how to bid with interference in your auction without using stolen bid doubles, with the exception of the 2-club overcall. That's the only stolen bid double you should use ever. But notice, if North-South use stolen bids, North can't double here. Now, here's another auction, or another mistake that a lot of people make. As soon as the auction's over, they forget about it. And if you can try to remember who bid what and who led what on opening lead, it will really help your decisions that you have to make, whether you're a defender or whether you are declaring the hand. Okay, here we go. East-West is vulnerable again, and West opens a diamond. North and East pass, and South bids a spade. West passes, and now North says 2 spades. No, 2 spades. That's reasonable. So West led the diamond queen, and East won the ace. This is standard operating procedure. When your partner leads the queen, denying the king, you play the ace, in case declarer's king is singleton. This is when the king is not in the dummy. Obviously, if the king is in the dummy and declarer doesn't play it, you're not going to play the ace until you have to. But when you don't see the king in the dummy, your partner has led the queen, and you have the ace, it is standard to play the ace. Now, we're defending a 2-spade contract here. And I don't see any particular sense in returning a diamond, because I know where the king is, and that's not going to help us much. So what should I do? Spades are trumps, so it doesn't seem like spades would be a good switch. And I'm looking at the hearts in the dummy, and that looks like a really bad idea, because any honor my partner might have, I would finesse for him. And I know where the king of diamonds is, and I've already decided I don't want to leave that. So I look in the dummy, and I see weakness in clubs. And I have the jack 10-9. This looks like a pretty good option. So I'm going to put the jack of clubs on the table, and it doesn't matter what the declarer does. His king is dead meat. If he covers the second time or the third time or whatever, the opponents are going to get 3 club tricks. They've already gotten a diamond trick. And South should be sitting there thinking, oh, I would like to make an over trick here. I would really like to make an over trick. How can I do it? I still have a spade loser. I still have a spade loser to lose. I wonder if I could pick up the trump queen here. Maybe the finesse will work. And it's about this time that he needs to think again. East played the ace of diamonds on the first trick, and he played the jack of clubs at the second trick. Notice, remember, he failed to respond. Means he doesn't have 6 points. You've already seen 5 points. Do you think he has the queen of spades, so that finesse is going to be successful? There's a rule in bridge: if the finesse won't work, don't take it. So, at this point, if you're the declarer and you've been thinking, and all you're doing is just remembering the bidding and the play to the first 2 tricks, you say, you know, I think I'll get a good result if I can make 3. Well, my only shot at making 3 is to drop a doubleton queen, because I know West has it. East cannot have any more high card points. He cannot. So if he just puts the ace and king of spades on the table, he'll drop the queen and make an over trick. All because he remembered the bidding and the play to the first 2 tricks. That's all. This is what good declarer play and also good defending is about. Thinking about the auction and who played what and what it shows. Here's another one. West opens a spade followed by 2 passes, and South balances with a double. Notice, he's got 16 high card points. Why doesn't he bid 1 no trump there? Anybody have a thought?
He doesn't have spade stock.
Well, that's the first problem, yes. That would be inviting disaster, wouldn't it? What does 1 no trump in the balancing seat show? How many points?
11.
14.
11 to 14. How many does he have? 16. So his hand is too good to bid 1 no trump in the balancing seat. His partner will take him for 11 to 14 points. And that's not what he has. So he starts with a double. West passes because his partner didn't bid. And now North thinks that's just a regular old takeout double. So he bids 2 clubs, even though that suit is really pathetic. And now he says, well, I've got 5 points. It isn't much, but I do have spade support for my partner. So I'm going to bid 2 spades here. Partner shouldn't get excited because he passed initially. And now it's time for South to show where he lives. He has a nice 5-card heart suit. Bidding 1 heart or 1 no trump in the balancing seat is not correct because there are too many points for 1 no trump, and a 1 level bid in the balancing seat shows about 11 to 14 points usually. Well, actually it could probably show 8 to 11 even for a suit. But when he bids 3 hearts over 2 spades, West says, oh, no, I'm not going to raise that. You passed the first time. You can't have much. You don't have 6 points. And I'm a dead minimum over here. But North says, well, hey, my partner has a good hand. I have a doubleton spade, and I have the ace of trumps for him. So he bids 4 hearts. That's called having confidence in your partner, right? So West leads the club jack, even though North bid clubs. He's thinking he's leading through the strength on the board, I'm sure. And then when he sees that suit, he goes, oh, well, you never know. You know, you bid what you have to. So declarer can see that he has to lose 2 spades and he has to lose a trip to the diamond ace. That means he cannot afford a trump loser. Now, the usual way to play this trump suit is to lead a low card to the ace and then a low card off the dummy back to the jack. But the bidding makes it highly, highly likely that the queen is in the West hand, doesn't it? Once again, you're thinking, oh, how can the declarer figure this out? Now, first off, West has to have the diamond ace, don't you think? To have the values to open the bidding. But he didn't lead a spade. Here's a big clue. He didn't lead a spade. What does that mean? It means he doesn't have touching honors, is what it means. Or if he had the king queen, he'd have led the king. He has to be missing the spade king because he didn't lead a spade. If he had the ace king, he would lead the ace. If he had the king queen, he would lead the king. But if he has the ace queen, he doesn't have a good option, does he? Is it written somewhere that his partner will have the king of spades because he bid 2 spades? It is not, let me tell you. So he should figure out that West doesn't have the king of spades. Let's put that card in the east hand, right? And we have another thought here. West led the jack of clubs. Who has the queen?
Ace.
Yeah, it's West, can it? And it's not in the north or south hands. So East has to have the queen of clubs, doesn't he? That's 5 points, folks. King of spades and the queen of clubs. Can he have any more points? He raised spades on a later round, meaning that he has 3 of them, probably, in all likelihood, particularly when declarer sees only 4 between his hand and the dummy. So I'm thinking that Mr. West has the queen of trumps and that any finesse that I take is going to lose. Once again, even though we only have 8 cards in the suit and the rule is 8 ever, 9 never, when your logic, the bidding, and the play to the first couple of tricks tells you otherwise, don't finesse. Play for the drop. In this case, if he plays for the drop, he's successful. Now, change this so that West has 3 hearts to the queen and you're going down. That's all there is to it. But once South figures all of this out, he says, okay, for me to be successful, West has to have queen doubleton of hearts. So you play as though that's the way it sits. It doesn't make any sense to do otherwise. Once you know how the cards have to lie, play as though that's what happens. All the declarer did was remember the bidding and make a couple of logical deductions based on the opening lead. Now then, here's one that a whole bunch of us are guilty of. Playing too quickly. I have a little declarer play trick for you in this hand that I'm not sure all of you know that will help you out a lot in the future, I hope. Look at these hands between North and South. South opens a no trump. North transfers to spades, and good for South, he super accepts. He has 17 high card points and 4 card support. That pretty much sets the trump suit right there. We have a 9 card spade set. So when North bids for no trump, that is key card for spades. South responds 5 hearts because he has 2 of them. And now North bids 5 no trump. Hey, that's pretty cool, isn't it? 6 hearts says, this is obviously not specific kings. This is number of kings. 6 hearts says, I have 2 kings. And now North bids 7 spades. Takes a lot of nerve to do that, doesn't it? North bid very well here to get to this slam. And when the declarer looks at it, he thinks, oh my gosh, not even I could fall out of this. So he wins the opening lead. And he promptly leads spade king, only to see East discard. A 4-0 trump split is the only thing that could have given the declarer a problem. And it's going to be 4 to the jack 10. When you are missing 4 trumps and they include the jack and the 10, there's a special way that you play so that you can pick up that 4 to the jack holding. And that is, if West has all 4 of them, that's the only way you can pick it up. If East has all 4 of them, you just can't, because your spades in the south hand are not good enough. So what you have to do is say, all right, the only thing that can give me a problem is a 4-0 trump break and West holding all 4 of them to the jack 10. When you are missing 4 cards in a suit and you're missing only the jack and not the 10, you lead an honor from the side that has 2 honors in it first. In other words, if South had been missing only the jack of spades and not the jack 10, it had been correct to lead the king of spades. But when you are missing the jack and the 10, you play the honor from the lone honor side first. Notice what that accomplishes. If instead of leading the king of spades, he leads the 3 to the ace, and East shows out, well, all he has to do is lead a trump from his hand and cover whatever West plays. And then he can pick up those 4 trumps for no losses. He has no problem with entries back to his hand to take more finesses. But once he led the king of spades, it no longer works. And that is because West has the jack and the 10. He can insert the 10 and force the queen, and the king is already gone. If you don't see this, get a deck of cards and lay it out and practice. It works like a charm. I will never forget the first time I saw this. And it has been a really great rule for me to follow. It's probably been 7 or 8 years now since I first saw it. And every time I have this situation, I say, okay, I'm missing the jack. Do I have the 10? And I start looking around on how to play. Does this mean that the trumps are always going to split 4-0? No, it doesn't. But every now and again, it will happen. If they split 3-1 or 2-2, no worries. Everybody will make 7 spades. But when you have a situation like this, if you can remember this, it costs you nothing to play the suit this way. Absolutely nothing to play the ace from the south hand first. You just have to know that that's a good way to do it. Roy, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Can you run through the scenario where East has all 4 of them and you still make it?
All 4 of them, the jack, 10, 5, and 4. Notice, even if you lead the 9 off the dummy, all he has to do is cover one of them, and that forces the ace. Then you can play the king and all of this other stuff, but the jack will still survive to take a trick. That's
Okay, it's
that's why
under
you,
the. I thought I read somewhere that it said no matter which side
no,
has
well,
the four.
when you have just the jack missing, if you start,
Oh, okay,
when
just
you
the
have just
jack.
the jack missing, you can pick them up no matter which side has all four. But when you're missing the jack 10, you can only pick them up if the jack 10 sits in front of the hand that has 2 honors in it. And that's why you start from the hand with 1 honor in it for the first trick.
I understand. Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Susan,
Anybody else have a question?
Susan, yes, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
This is Harv. How do you know in advance that East is out of spades?
No, you don't. But when I'm looking at the hand, I'm looking for problems. A lot of people just assume, oh, well, the trumps will be 2-2 or 3-1. Most of the time they will. But the key element here is that the declarers who think about possibilities, in other words, be a little bit paranoid. Paranoia is a good thing in a declarer. What can go wrong here? This looks perfect. What could go wrong? Well, what could go wrong is one of the opponents could have all 4 trumps. And as I said, it costs you nothing to lead low to the ace first. And in this instance, you've done exactly the right thing. If everybody follows, your safety play wasn't necessary. This is a way, though, to protect yourself. And a lot of people are not aware. When you're missing just the jack, you lead differently from when you're missing the jack and the 10. You play the honors differently in order to try to pick them up when you don't know exactly how they lie. And of course, the opponents did no bidding here at all. They didn't have anything to bid with, obviously. But this little trick right here has saved me, I can't tell you how many times. It doesn't come up very often, but man, does it work. It absolutely works. And I've come to a spot here where I think it's probably time to stop. We'll pick up with slide 12 next week, unless somebody would like to discuss something else. And I've got some material I've located on common errors at defense. I know you guys are all pretty interested in defense. And so I can show you some examples of plays that a lot of people make and why they're wrong and what the solution is to avoid making the mistakes, if that's of any interest to you. So thank you for coming, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Hi, this is Susan. Thanks for watching this video today. Most of these videos come from our free bridge lessons that we present on Zoom every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time. If you'd like to join us for those lessons, you can email us at the address shown below and we'll send you the link. If you can't attend the lessons, then feel free to subscribe to our channel and you'll be notified when there is a new one added. Again, thanks for stopping by and we hope to see you soon.